Hari Om Sabko, welcome to this class on Kathopnishad. We are continuing the second chapter, first Valli. So this is the 23rd class in our series, and we'll be starting with the second chapter, the 8th verse, second chapter, Pratham Valli, second chapter, part 1. So we'll start with the chanting first. I'll chant at my end. You guys can chant at your end. Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahno Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Gananam Tva Ganpatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamasravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Shrinvanutibhi Siddha Sadhanam. Om Shri Mahaganpataye Namaha. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varde Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwarah Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we are studying this text, the Kathopnishad, which is where we have looked up at the journey of Nachiketas, this young kid who is somehow through circumstances, when he is faced with the anger of his father, he then goes off to Yamalok or Mrityulok, and there he makes the best use of this opportunity to gain self-knowledge, right? So because he reached there late, and Yamaraja was not there, so then because of his inability to look after the Atithi or the guest, he granted him 3 boons. So 3 boons, the first he used for his family, the second for the Kutumba or the total total village and the people around him, and the final for himself, the knowledge about the self. So in this, initially, the Lord Yamaraja, he tried to dissuade him because this knowledge is not given to anyone and everyone. It is given after testing carefully the desire, the deep inbuilt mumukshutvam, the desire for liberation or the desire to have this knowledge, then only it is given. So we are looking at this third section where this first is question that about Atmagyanam, that tell me about that which after death, does it exist or not, that Atma, does it exist or not, and what happens to it, right? So in these, initially after hinting at the answers, here he is giving, Yamaraja is giving a detailed explanation of this. So we have seen in this first last few verses from 1 to 7 and also the 9th we have seen. We skipped the 8th. We looked a bit at the 8th in the end, right? So in this we have seen that the soul or the consciousness is described as our own infinite nature, my own infinite nature, or the infinite nature of the whole universe, right? Something that pervades each and every part of this creation as well as beyond, right? So this consciousness, it is slowly proved point by point that this consciousness is the same one infinite consciousness, but when it is functioning through different reflecting medium, it appears different. So this same consciousness at the individual level and at the total samashti level, Vyashti and Samashti. So at the individual level, first, at the level of the individual gross body, the gross body of the individual as well as the gross body of the universe, which is Virat. Then at the level of the subtle body, the subtle body of the individual, which is, we saw earlier, it is Tejas. And then at the total level Hiranyagarbha, Brahmaji, the creator from whom, and finally Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, and at the final level, we are looking here at the at the third level is the Ishvara part, which we saw earlier. First of all, Ishvara is at the subtle causal level, at the causal level, Kar and Sharir. So Kar and Sharir, Ishvara and Pragya, the individual Jiva at the causal level, then Sukshma Sharir, the individual uh, at the Tejas, we give them different names. Na? So the individual has the gross body, subtle body, and the causal body. Same way, the universe also has these three bodies. Now, this same consciousness, when it reflects through all of these different medium, just like every medium, when light is reflected from it, the light will have different brightness. So, same way, all this same consciousness appears different. It takes on the different attributes and the shapes of the medium through which it is reflecting. But through these verses, we have seen that it is the one and the very same consciousness. Further, we also saw that since that consciousness is inseparable into parts, we cannot divide it. It does not have any name or form. That means it is infinite. So this division that we are seeing is only apparent. It is not a real division. It appears, right? Just like a dream appears, we create a whole universe within our mind. So now here we are looking at the fire that is present within the two sticks, or through which fire is churned to create the Yagyagni. So we'll look at this verse. Aranyo nihito jat vedaha garbha ev subhrito garbhini bihi dive dive idyo jagrivat bihi havishmat manushye bhirakni bihi etad vaitat. So, Aranyo Nihito Jatavedaha. This Agni, this fire, this consciousness principle, which is of the nature of Virat, the whole universe. How we see the whole universe, this is hidden within the Aranis, the two sticks through which the Yagyagni is burnt. So, we have these two sticks, upper and lower. One is in the form of a block, the other is in the form of a rod, and we churn the upper one onto the lower one, and there are sparks coming out. Through those sparks, we place something which is combustible, like cotton or dry twigs, and that catches fire first, and from that Yagya Agni is manufactured. Right. So these two represent the churning. So the churning churning to release knowledge. So this churning represents the movement of the mind and the intellect. So when the mind and the intellect churn, mind gives all the different options and the intellect analyzes them. So through this churning, this knowledge is born, the knowledge of my true nature, this knowledge of Atma. And this is very sacred knowledge. It's a very sacred knowledge. So it is kept protected. It is kept protected, just like here is written, Garbha Iva Subhrito Garbhini Bihi. So when there is a pregnant woman, Garbhini Bihi, she protects her Garbha, the womb or the infant within her, with the most of care. So, and then Dive Dive Idio Jagrivat Bihi. So this knowledge, which is in the form of Agni, daily it is praised by whom? Jagrivat Bihi, the waking people, or the one who do these homas. Then Havishmat Bihi and Manushya Bihi, the three people who we saw do the Nachiketa Agni, right? So this through this Agni, through this Arani Manthanam, the Agni is produced, which is likened to the knowledge. So in this mantra, what Dharmaraja is doing out, he wants to point out that one consciousness alone is in the form of Virat and Vishwa at the what we call the gross level. Then we saw this definition of Virat, consciousness expressing through the Sthul Prapancha, the gross, tangible, and visible universe. And then in several other places, Virat or Sthul Prapancha is represented by Agni Tattva. So why Agni we use? We saw earlier also that Agni is used because one of the three in one of the three meanings of Virat, we take Agni as a symbol representing the stool prapanch. Why? Because out of the five elements, what are the five elements? Akash, Vayu, Agni, Prithvi, Jal, Prithvi. So out of these, the one that is the first that is visible to the eye, or the one that associates with form, Akar, that is Agni. So that is why Agni is the symbol for Virat, the visible universe, right? So that is why Agni is used, right? For manifest. So Agni is a symbol for this Virat or Sthul Prapancha, right? So Agni represents the Virat or the visible body of the universe. Right? So Akash, of course, is the first element. But it is formless. Vayu again is formless. So Agni, actually, if you speak in a stricter sense, it is energy. It is also not visible, but it is visible through its effect. So this Agni, when it pervades any object, it becomes like a fire which is visible, and that is said to be the one that creates form. It brings about form, right? So when Agni enters anything, it creates a form. So this way, Shastra is saying that this Virat Prapancha is represented by this Agni Tattva. Okay, it is also called the Adhyatma Agni or Antar Agni. In the Vedas, no, the Agni represents the inner consciousness, the individual consciousness. Swarupa, you want to ask something?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to know, so why we're not taking jal? Like that is also visible. It has.
Yeah, yeah. Jal is in a different sense. Of course, you are right. Agni represents the at the Virat level where something is something is becoming visible and having form, right? But Jala represents another way, because Jala is actually you are right. It is the first visible one which can be perceived properly, right? So the Jal represents Jal because it has no form of its own, and it takes the form of the vessel. That is why it is used to represent another very deeper aspect of creation. What is that? The creation at the nascent level, that is Sat,
Yes, you
existence level.
told us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like the existence can take up various forms, right? That form taking is encouraged by Agni. But at the basis of that creation is this existence, right? That is why we saw earlier also that at the beginning of creation, there were the waters. So the waters is seen in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Then it is also in even the Bible. It is there that in the beginning there were the waters. So most maybe they don't understand what water means there, but we know from our scriptures water means this very existence, right? So existence and form, these two aspects are represented by Jala Tattva and Agni Tattva. Of course, we have text also to where this is clearly mentioned. We have Nirukta Shastra. So if you look at Nirukta and you look at the multiple meanings of a word, you look at Jalam. Jalam is also Sat, right? So Jal is Sat, Agni is Virat. So these are the two ways. So now this we are seeing this Agni where Bahya, outside, right? As the Virat. So through this Vaishvanar Agni is manifesting, right? And also inside also it does what does it do? It enters into us through the what we call Gahar Patya Agni, the Agni that is also called Jathar Agni, the Agni that is present in the stomach. So we do two kinds of cooking. Now, the one is the cooking by the Agni outside, other is the cooking in the stomach. So there also the cooking is done. So the body, this Agni breaks up the food into the different nutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, fats. So that there also. So that is why this Vaishwana Agni, it brings about form. Just like it maintains and nourishes our body form also. Right. So in this way, this Yagya Agni outside and the Jathar Agni inside, they maintain us, right? So then through this, we saw the Arani part, the Uttar and Adhar Arani, they produce this fire. So it is hidden, right? This Agni is hidden there. It has to be churned out. So it is representing that consciousness which is hidden within every aspect of this universe. We have to churn it out. We have to churn it out with our thinking, with our meditation. We have to understand, right? So, therefore, when you hear this when you're hungry, you have this sound inside you. That is Agni making the sound when you're really hungry. Good. Yeah. So that is the sound of creation, right? Yeah. So this is the cosmic principle. And so now Jat Veda is another name that is used here. So Jat Veda means what? The knower of the Vedas. So it represents something that through which everything can be known. So what is that principle? The consciousness, right? Anything that I have to know through the consciousness only. So here Agni's name is given as Jat Veda, and that is also the outside Agni Devta, because where do we generate this knowledge? Outside. We see the objects of the universe. And again, we saw Aranyo Nihitaha. This Agni Tattvam is hidden in the two Aranis, right? So Nihita means it is situated. Situated. So example is given by the Garbhini Bihi, Garbha Iva Subhrita, pregnant woman. She very carefully protects this fetus. How? Dive Dive Idaya Agni. This Agni Tattvam is worshipped every day. Because why every day? Because every day what do we have to do? According to the Vedic Shastra, the Nitya Karma, right? All are Nitya Karmas we have to do. So that is represented by the daily worship of Agni. So we do our Agni Hotra, or the ladies when they do cooking before the fire, they do the offerings to the fire, right? So all of these are ways in which this Agni is invoked into our lives. So who all worship this? This external is fire is worshipped by Havishmadbihi, Manushyabihi. So the person who are doing the rituals through the Havish, the Havi, the offering that you put in the fire. So here Yamaraja says not only the external fire is worshipped, but the internal Vaishvana Agni also, it is worshipped by the Jagrivat Bihi, the Upasaks, those who do Upasana. Or Upasana is done in what state? The waking state, right? So when you are awake, so that is why the name there, Jagrivat Bihi. So these two pairs of the gross part we have seen earlier. No, we have seen the causal part, Ishvara. We have seen the in the fifth and sixth mantra. Then in the seventh and ninth, we have seen the subtle part, Hiranyagarbha, and the individual subtle body. So all of these have the same consciousness only. So that is why the last two magical words, Etad Vai Tat. So Etad Vai Tat. So this consciousness that you are looking for, this is the same in both of the forms of the Virat, at the individual and at the total level. So combining all of these mantras 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, what we have seen is that very one same consciousness alone, it expresses through the three pairs in the form of Pragya and Ishvara, individual and total, Tejas and Hiranyagarbha, and Vishwa and Virat. Therefore, what have we reached? Sarvam Brahmamayam. सब कुछ ब्रह्ममय है जगत में. Everything is brahmamay only, composed of Brahman. So this idea will be summed up in the next mantra also. So we will look at this one. So just we'll now move on to the 10th mantra. So whatever we have seen in these previous mantras, the summary is given in the next. यदेवेहे तदमुत्र यदमुत्र तदिन्वः मृत्यो स मृत्युमाप्नोति य इह नाने पश्यति यदेवेहे तदमुत्र यदमुत्र तदिन्वः मृत्यो स मृत्युमाप्नोति य इह नाने पश्यति. तो यत इह, that very same consciousness which is iha means here, within me, and tat amutraha, there also in the outside me, right? In the universe, as at the universal level. And then yad amutraha tat anviha, what is there again is same here only. Why we'll see both twice it is mentioned, means the same only, but why twice? So mrityu sa mrityum apnoti, the one who let's look at the last words. Ya iha nana iva pashyati. Very famous quote It represents the uh, core of this teaching. Whoever sees duality or multiplicity. Iha, nana means multiplicity. Eva pashyati. Eva is also important, that this multiplicity that we see in the world, it is as though not real. So that is why the eva word is used. So whoever sees multiplicity, what happens to this person? Mrityo sa mrityum apnoti. He goes from one death to the other. He goes from one death to the other. So this is the thought that is given here. Yad ev iha tad amutra. So this is the summary, as we said, of all the mantras from 5 to 9. So iha is the individual reflecting medium, right? Individual reflecting medium, the jiva. And therefore, it is what we call the vyashti upadhi, right? So everything is a conditioning, right? Whenever this atma takes any conditioning, then through this conditioning it appears limited, right? So whenever it takes a vyashti upadhi, it appears limited and very small. Whenever it takes the samashti upadhi, it is still limited. It is still limited, because this beyond this universe there are other universes. So when it takes the samashti upadhi, then it is bigger, but still it is limited, right? So this consciousness, which is infinite, without any boundaries, it takes up the characteristics of the medium through which it is functioning. जिस केंद्र से वो कार्य कर रहा है, whatever center it is working through, it takes up the properties of this uh, medium, right? So now yadev vartate. So through whichever yadev vartate, through whichever it is functioning, this consciousness is obtaining, through whichever medium it is manifesting. So this consciousness, which is manifesting the Vyashti Upadhi, or the micro reflecting medium, tad amutraha. Amutra means samashti upadhi in the total, the macro reflecting medium, right? So there, Virat. So whether you take so you can take all three here now. You can take all three, right? So Iha represents the gross body, subtle body, and the causal body of the individual. And Amutra represents the gross body, subtle body, and the causal body of the total of Ishvara or Hiranyagarbha or Shiv. So in this way, yat iha tad mutra means the whatever is here, that is there. Meaning what? The same consciousness is functioning through this individual as well as is functioning through the total, the macro reflecting medium. You can take any of the three: sthul, sukshma, and karan, prapancha there. So tadaeva, the same consciousness alone is there. So even though superficially in one place, consciousness, it seems to be dull. In some places, it seems to be very, very bright. So the dullness and brightness of the consciousness, they do not belong to the consciousness itself, but it belongs to the reflecting medium. So like we have a bulb, right? So when the consciousness or when the electricity is passing through the bulb, then depending on the filament, the light will be very, very bright or very, very dull. Now you have this, the night bulb, you have the 5 watt or 0 watt, whatever they call it. So whether we are 0 watt, 5 watt or 500 watt, it depends on us. And what happens when that filament is fused? When the filament is fused, then it will not work, right? It is not manifesting. But does that mean it's not there? It is still there. You can put in another bulb to test it. You don't need to put your finger inside, get instant realization. So there, when you are using this any medium, it can be a different medium. It can be a fan, or it can be a heater, or anything that runs on electricity. So when you put it there, same way, this consciousness also, it makes everything function, right? So it is up to us how bright we make our intellect. However bright we make, the more brighter the reflection will be. So difference is that we experience does not belong to electricity which is behind, but it belongs to the manifesting medium. Similarly, the Chaitanyam, the consciousness which is obtaining in the smallest of beings, no, even in an ant, and in a very big. So in the Manisha Panchakam there is Ya Brahma या ब्रह्मादि pipilaka anta neshu prokta jagat sakshini. So that same consciousness is manifest through Brahman also, Brahm, the highest reality, and also through here it is Brahmaji, the creator, and Pipilika, the ant. So that same consciousness is functioning through each and every, the smallest to the largest beings, right? So uh, there, Brahma means the Samashti or Virat, and Pipilika means and the consciousness at the very lowest level, right? So that is why it is said here there is no question of higher or lower consciousness. There is no question of higher. Consciousness is the same. Now, we sometimes we hear, no, we think that the Jnani has got higher consciousness, Ajnani has got lower consciousness. We have heard these terms, no? So we have to understand very clearly why it is said there that the because consciousness is one only, there is no higher or lower. But when you say a jnani has higher consciousness, you understand that because his mind is sat gun pradhanam, right? It has more of purity. It is very, very pure. And it is also purified through what? Sadhan chatushte sampatti. We have seen. No? So the mind of the jnani is sattva pradhan. Antakaran, and then sadhan chatushte sampann antakaran. So therefore, the consciousness seems to be exalted or higher or more brightly visible. And in a lower person or in a criminal or someone with very tamas-filled mind, no, for that person, the consciousness seems to be low. Right, because he is not able to analyze his true nature. In fact, he's so caught in his own desires, he never looks that way. So where it is, where it is said here, what is said here, yad ev iha, yad eva amutra. And because Yamaraja thinks it's a very important lesson there, and he is worried that the student will forget or maybe sleep in the class, so he repeats it, yad amutra anu iha. So whatever is there also, that is also available here in a anu, in a more subtle form, in a more reduced form, that same consciousness which is there in the samashti upadhi. Also, this equalization, it serves a very important purpose. So, like we have a theory of sets. So, when you equate two things, one-to-one relationship, if you equate it both ways, then it leaves out nothing. Everything is included now, right? So nothing is left out. So that means this consciousness is pervading each and everything. So that is why it's said to be both ways. So therefore, we have to understand that there is no essential difference at all in the jivas, in the beings of this universe, as regard to consciousness. All of us are one and the same consciousness, right? So wise people, they do not see the body mind medium. They do not, for them, this is like non-existent, even though they are literally seeing, but they recognize that everyone is Atma. They see that clearly through their trained intellect. And they see only the Atma in the behind the body mind medium. And when I see the body mind medium, I will see differences. When I see myself as a body, I will see another one as a different body. I will see gradation. I will see gradation. I will do comparison. No? And this one, he is brighter. I am duller. Or I am brighter. He is duller. That is more natural. हम खुद को ज्यादा स्मार्ट समझते हैं. So we I will see the gradation. No? So therefore, one who's absorbed in the medium of body mind complex, he will see this duality, plurality, you can say. He will see this plurality, multiplicity. So when we do that, we will have comparisons. We will have lots of complexes. And Yam Dharmaraja, what is he saying? He says, not only will we see plurality if you are absorbed in the medium, we will also see mortality, death. So why? Because whoever is absorbed in or identified with the medium of this body-mind complex, not only will there be all kinds of emotional problems like rag, dvesh, kam, krodh, lobh, moh, all come because we interact with something, we have form and attachment, and then all these problems come. All the samsaric problems that we call, they will come. Right. So these problems, if I have to solve, I have to change my vision. I have to change the way I look at this universe. So if I have to look at this, I have to let go of my wrong vision. So if I take myself to be the body, I will have insecurity. And once this insecurity comes, no, the struggle is endless because whatever you have, the insecurity will never go away. because the mortal body, it cannot be made immortal, however much we try. Normally, when we hear in the scriptures, how will I become immortal? We applied that naturally to the body. मेरा शरीर नहीं जाएगा कभी, which is not going to happen. A lot of people, when they read some scriptures, they comment that these devtas are doing something like something immoral or something wrong. They don't understand that when you're talking about the devas, we are talking about conscious principles. They don't have this body. If they had this body, would they live for those millions of years that they are shown to be living in the scriptures? Right. So they don't have this body. They are divine principles. They are the divine manifestations of consciousness at the total level. Right. This is how we saw it. So therefore, when I am, if I know that I am not the mortal body, but I am the immortal consciousness functioning through it and transacting, I am just transacting through the mortal body. Then I will not have the feeling of insecurity. Body can come and go. Body will come and go. I don't care. So in the Gita, Bhagavan says, Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya. So like changing the clothes, this body drops the bodies. This Atma, it takes one body, then drops. So for it is like changing of the clothes, or like I will change my clothes, or I change my spectacles when my power changes. So when I take myself to be the consciousness, I will also look at all of the people around me as consciousness only. Because as I take myself, so I will look upon the rest also. No? So one Acharya ji beautifully says, as I look at myself, so I look at the world. So if I'm going to look at myself as a physical body, I'm a physical person. Then I'm conscious of my height, weight, figure, complexion, hairstyle, dress. Naturally, whenever I look at anyone, I will make these comparisons. And look at some people who are more refined. They are thoughtful persons. You call them a thinker. So they are more in touch with someone's thoughts. They can sense the thoughts of someone else. No, they can empathize. They can relate to them. So when I am a thinker, I will look at the thoughts of the people around me. I will relate to them at that level, right? So therefore, as I am, I look at others. So what is the highest manifestation of this progress that we have in life? As it is the consciousness. सबसे ऊपर वही है. Because nothing beyond that. No, there we are reaching the limit. No? So if I take myself as the consciousness behind the body, I am going to look at every one of you as the same consciousness. This is called the Advait Darshanam or Abhed Darshanam or Ekatva Darshanam. Right? So it is not that this plurality is absent. Be very, very careful. It's not that this will suddenly, मुझे आत्मज्ञान हो गया, I have self-knowledge, all will disappear. This is not going to happen. We have to be very, very careful. My outlook will change. So I will see the plurality, but I will not be absorbed in that plurality, right? I am absorbed in the oneness. I am absorbed with closed eyes or with open eyes. So therefore, Yam Dharmaraja says, what will happen to this person who will see this plurality? He will have insecurity. And the one who sees non-duality, he will always be secure. So therefore, whether I'm secure or insecure, it depends on the Bheda Darshanam or Abheda Darshanam. Whatever is my drishti, my vision. So this is a very, very big revelation. No, because normally what happens, what do we think? Whether we are secure, we generally think security depends on our possessions. No? I have $1 billion or 5 billion or 10 billion or whatever you feel is the ultimate of security. So people feel that way. And yet when you look at those rich people, they are forever thirsting for more and more. It never ends. It never ends. Whereas this sannyasi who's sitting in the jungle with a single cloth, he is happy and satisfied. But attitude has to be there. There are people who are poor. They are not satisfied. I'm not saying everyone will be the same. You have to have that attitude. So once that attitude is there, then you learn to search for your security in a higher principle. And if you can change the perspective, you can go from insecurity to security. So if you want a simple example, like there is a wave that is going about in the ocean. So after some time, what will happen? The wave is going to get destroyed. right? So wave will always be insecure. मैं मर जाऊंगी या मैं नहीं रहूंगी. I will merge back into the ocean. So there, so let us think for a moment that this wave is conscious. It is able to articulate. So if the wave itself can think, then it can change the perspective, and instead of claiming that I am a wave, it can start practicing I am not a wave. Waveness is only an incidental attribute, but I am what? I am nothing but water. I am nothing but water. So by the sheer change of this perspective, based on understanding, the wave can say what? That I am the immortal water. So therefore, Yamadharma Raja, it makes a beautiful statement. Ya iha nana iva pashyati. Suppose a person sees plurality in this world, identified with the perishable, mortal body. What will happen to this person? Mrityoho sa mrityum apnoti. He goes from one death to the other. Apnoti is attained. So his life is a tragedy because he goes from one death to another death. So you can interpret this in many different ways. In one life, no, itself, one can go from one death to another because death happens not only once in life. Imaginary death also happens a lot of time. So in Julius Caesar, it was said there, courageous man dies once, but a man of fear, he dies several times. He dies several times. जिसको डर लगता है वो बार बार मरता है. हाँ. So we have no in movies, जो डर गया समझो मर गया. So the fear of death is constantly present. Therefore, mrityoho sa mrityum apnoti. And then there is another interpretation also. He goes from death to death because according to our Shastra, death is not experienced only once because we have punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, right? We take birth again and again based on our desires. So once our desires are not fulfilled, we add them to our bank. A bank of what? Sanchit karma. And from out of that, the Lord chooses one set of those desires and uses them to give us another birth. So that second birth is the beginning of another life. But again, what it will culminate in? It will also culminate in another death. So because of our desires or because of our seeing this nanatvam, this plurality, we will always have desires, and therefore we will always go from one life to another life, or more appropriately what is said here, one death to another death. So why? Because the Upanishad use, it can say life to life. Why? Because it has to scare you. डर लगाना पड़ेगा ना, तभी तो हटोगे यहाँ से. It has to scare you into giving up this normal routine that you're so used to. No, most people say, तो क्या हो गया? I'll come to this world again and again. They don't realize the pain that you have to be, with which you have to be here. They don't realize that when you go into all of these births, the uncertainty, the difficulties, they will always bother you. No, so once you have this vision, then this vision itself, even while living, it will liberate you. That is also a very big aspect of it. So you will you will give up all fear. So this remedy is given here. So one who sees plurality will go from mortality to mortality to mortality. So therefore, what do? Don't see plurality. So then you will wonder that when I open my eyes, I'm seeing this plurality everywhere. Does this mean I'll close my eyes? So you can't do that, no. So don't see plurality means don't see plurality as the ultimate truth. See plurality as only the superficial difference. See oneness as the essence. Don't see plurality as the truth. See it only as a superficial difference, but see oneness alone as the truth. So we think it is very tough, but actually when we think carefully, it is not so tough at all. How? We doing it regularly when we run after something that we desire. So what is one of our main desires? What women mostly love a lot? Gold. Right? So whatever ornament you are buying, that in that ornament, at the back of your mind is that all these are gold. An ornament of brass or copper will not be cherished by you so much, right? So you are looking not at the name and form, You are not looking at the plurality. So a same gold can become a bangle, it can become a ring, it can be, but you are looking at the quantity of gold, right? You are looking at the substance, no, the essence. So same way we also have to see the essence. We have to see the essence in this world. So in this way, this wise man, he will always handle plurality, but never forget the oneness behind it, right? So we'll move on to the next one, 11th. This is also a continuation of the same thought in a different manner. मनसेवेदमाप्तव्यं नेह नानास्ति किंचन मृत्यो स मृत्युम गच्छति य इहेनाने पश्यति मनसेवेदमाप्तव्यं नेह नानास्ति किंचन मृत्यो स मृत्युम गच्छति य इहानाने पश्यति. So this knowledge that we are having, this knowledge of the self, how do we hold on to it? How do we grasp it? Manasa eva idam aptavyam. So by the pure mind, by the mind itself, this knowledge can be gained. And neha nana asti kinchana. Here there is not even the smallest of duality. Nana asti kinchana, right? The asti word also will analyze. So mrityo sa mrityum gacchati. Again the same repetition. So there it was apnoti, and here it is gacchati. Ya iha nana eva pashyati. Whoever sees this duality, he goes from one death to another death. So we have two very beautiful words which are both used in these two verses. What do that convey? One thing is apnoti, to attain something, right? And then gacchati, to go somewhere, right? So normally when we try to attain something, then to do that we have to go somewhere or do some action. कुछ कर्म करना पड़ता है प्राप्त करने के लिए. But in this Atma we don't have to go anywhere. It is just a simple change of my mindset, right? So through knowledge, this will be obtained. This is the secret of these two words in these two verses. That through knowledge, because in Sanskrit also, the meaning of going is also related to attaining. Whenever I go somewhere, I go to attain something. So in this way, this knowledge is something where I don't actually need to go anywhere. Just in my own position, I can attain this knowledge. So manasa eva idam aptavyam. So very important, because if you keep reading, the Upanishads, then Shankaracharya Bhagwan will quote this neha nanasti kinchana in almost every Upanishad and multiple times also. That there is not the slightest of duality, right? Whatever you see is not real. So this is repeated through all the Upanishads. It's a very, very deep thought. So this second line, of course, we have seen, it is almost is प्राप्त करना. Apnoti is प्राप्त करना and gacchati is jana. So the second line is almost the repetition of the previous mantra. So only difference being apnoti. So both meaning the same only. So now if a person sees plurality as real, then he will travel from death to death. This we have analyzed in great detail. So he will become a sansari. So why is happening? Iha nana kinchit nasti. Very, very quoted. So it is also the essence. So it means there is no plurality, no division at all. Division belongs to what? Division belongs to the name and form. Nama rupaha. It is the name and form which create the division in an object. Just like we saw the gold. So the gold is given the form of a round circular thing. We call it a bangle. So difference is what? Earlier it was it could have been a necklace and melted down back into gold, and then another name is given, another shape is given. So when we give a shape to any substance, we change names for it. Substance is only one. So like all bangles, all chains, all rings are different, but these differences belong to the superficial nama rupa. Behind the stuff of all the ornaments is gold only. Similarly, the stuff of all the material creation is only one non-dual consciousness alone. Only one non-dual consciousness alone. This we'll study a bit more in tomorrow's Purush Sukta also, because same topic is there also, of how this consciousness becomes many. There, the main topic is that only. No. So here we have to very carefully note what the Upanishad is saying, that there is no plurality even in the present. Asti. So asti represents what? That the plurality is saying does not mean that it existed sometime. Plurality that you are saying, it does not exist even now. So it does not mean that this Advaitam that you are seeking, this non-duality, will come sometime in the future after lots of sadhana. So that is not being clear. Clearly, it is being denied. It means it is here now, and that means it was earlier also. It will be in the future also, right? So therefore, it is very important that we think during sadhana that there is duality and have to remove it. By constantly practicing sadhana, we think that the Dvaitam will go away, and one day it will merge, and I will reach a time when the whole world of plurality will merge and I will have Advaitam, and that will help in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Right? So in Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, yes, it will happen, something will happen. But what will happen? Upanishad says we are not going, firstly, remember clearly, we are not going from Dvaitam to Advaitam. If you are going from Dvaitam to Advaitam, what will happen? The Upanishad will have to say there will be Advaitam in the future tense. Nana asti, asti nahi hoga fir. Then it will not be asti. Then it will be in the future sense. So Advaitam exists eternally in the past, present, and future. That has to be used. So, but the very fact Upanishad is not using any future tense or past means it is here and now, available to us all the time. We only have to shed our wrong knowledge. So, if at all we are going to reach Advaitam, if all we have to reach, then reaching happens only in the manner by dropping your notion that there is Dvaitam. You have to drop the notion that there is any kind of duality.
Sure.
So dropping that notion, which is an intellectual problem, born out of ignorance, born out of my wrong notion. So that dropping the notion is also figuratively called reaching Advaitam. So you should not ask that if I drop the notion, will I reach Advaitam? No, by dropping the notion, you won't reach Advaitam because you need not. It was, it is, and it will be. And therefore, reaching Advaitam is in the form of understanding. It is wisdom. It is removing your misconception. Just as the wave we are talking about, now we told the wave changed from mortality to immortality. How? Not, it was not an event in time. It didn't do anything. There was no transformation. So in the form of the wave, wave remaining the same, it understood that it was what? Water. So imagine wave has got life and it has to do only a small job, changing the vision or perspective. Instead of taking itself to be the wave, it should just know I am water. So therefore, Upanishad, what is saying here? Iha nana idanim api, which we have to add, nasti. So if jnanam is the only method of going from Dvaitam to Advaitam, or you can say mortality to immortality, then how to get that jnanam? What is the main method of getting that jnanam? That is in the first line, manasa eva idam aptavyam. Manasa eva idam aptavyam. Manasa means by the mind. So by the mind, it has to be, this has to be attained. So, Chaturthi Vibhakti in Sanskrit will say, the by. So it has to be attained with the help of the mind alone. Therefore, kindly don't dismiss the mind. Don't drop the mind. Don't make the mind, blank or non-functional or thoughtless. That is being said here. That is why any form of meditation in which the mind is stunned or made inoperative, it is not recommended. It is not recommended in Advaita Vedanta or in our spiritual tradition also, right? So we don't recommend, because by stopping the mind, how can you get any knowledge? Right? If you don't get the knowledge with the mind, how are you going to get the knowledge without the mind? So, like if my eyes, if with my eyes I cannot see something, then will I remove my eyes? No. With the eyes, if I don't see, I will try to improve the eyes. No, I will take a spectacle or some microscope or whatever. If I'm not seeing something, I have to give an aid to it. But we can't remove the eye and think that we will start seeing something that I don't see. right? So therefore, we don't stop the mind, don't stun the mind, we don't destroy the mind. The idea of this manonash that we hear, no, we don't have to entertain. The word manonash, it has some other technical meaning. So don't take the word manonash used in some books and try to totally destroy the mind. Upanishad says mind is the most important instrument. What does manonash mean actually? Actually, manonash means negating that there is a mind separate from the total existence. So that is manonash. So merging it. But before that, you have to have the knowledge. So first the knowledge comes, then only the negation can happen. No? So this has to happen through the mind. So Upanishad says mind is the most important instrument in gaining the knowledge. Therefore, it says manasa idam aptavyam. This knowledge that Advaitam alone is the reality, right? Which has to be attained through manasa eva, only through the mind, eva, alone. So mind is not an optional thing. It is compulsorily required. If mind is not required, why should we carefully purify it? No, that is the funny thing. Now, suppose no, if person wants to eat food with the hand, but then suddenly someone says, "Why don't you take a plate?" And then he'll take a plate, and then he'll keep washing it for 2 hours, polishing it, and then at the end, what will he do? He'll put the plate at the side, and then again eat with his hand only. What is the sense? So therefore, why should Shastra talk about, Vivek, Vairagya, Shama, Dhamma? For whatever you have to clean, you have to use it also, no? So if the mind has to be cleaned or purified before gaining knowledge, so that means it will be used for this gaining of knowledge. So therefore, Vivek, Vairagya, Shama, Dhamma, Uprati, Titiksha, Mumukshutvam, all the values that we saw, no, Sadhan, Shat Sampatti, all these are for the purification of the mind. If you don't require the mind for jnanam, why should we waste our time? Therefore, remember that the mind is a must for this Atma Jnanam. So naturally, now we will have two doubts. You will not have maybe, but I will have to create that doubt in your mind. So you have to think. So there, naturally, what is the first doubt? One doubt will come is that in other Upanishads it is said that this knowledge cannot be known through the mind. Yan manasa na manute, in Ken Upanishad it is said. So Atma cannot be known through the mind. So is it possible that two Upanishads will say contradictory things? No. We have to understand the context. That is the method of Shastra. That is the method of Shastra. So we have a huge Shastra called, not very huge because it has 555 verses, Brahma Sutra, where all these seeming differences are reconciled, right? Because we know for a fact, we know through careful study that it is only through uh, logical inference that nothing in the Shastra can be wrong. It always has to be that if two things are appearing to be contradictory, we apply them to different levels, right? There are different levels through which we have to apply them. So there, now here we have seen if Atma cannot be known through the mind, only after reading that, no, a lot of people started this, Manonash thing, destroying the mind. Problem is now we are looking at another Upanishad. Here it is saying Manasayeva. So in Munda Upanishad also it was said, Esho Anu Atma Chetasa Veditavya. Atma has also to be known through the mind only. So it is not in this Upanishad only. So which one is correct? Which of these is correct? You can gain knowledge through the mind. You or you cannot gain knowledge through the mind. These are the two opposite things, right? So all our teachers, they have discussed this in our different texts and to how to resolve. So there are a lot of answers to this, but we will just look at two of the simpler answers. One is simpler, second one is slightly bit more complex. So the first one is that when the Upanishad says that you cannot know through the Atma, through the mind, it means, we have seen this earlier also, if you can try and remember. So it means you cannot know through the ordinary mind. Where was this seen? In the first chapter, third Valli, 12th mantra. Drishyate tu agraya buddhaya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhihi. So this Atma through the mind, it cannot be known through the ordinary mind, unprepared mind, because it is not a prepared instrument. So when the Upanishad says you have to know the Atma through the mind, It means that it has to be known through a qualified and prepared mind. Sukshma and agraya buddhya, a very subtle and sharp, right? So how? So therefore, through this mind only, with a specially prepared mind, you can do that. Or you can do the different sadhanas that are available. No, sadhan chatushtaya sampatti, so karma yoga, ashtanga yoga, they all prepare the mind. All these values, they prepare the mind. Your entire religious life prepares the mind. Everything. No, we think that in Hinduism, someone is not a Hindu if one does not know the Veda or one doesn't know this text or that text. No, we have made such a beautiful system that the Veda is the core. From it emanates all the scriptures, everything. We've seen the 14, the 14 kinds of different kinds of knowledge, which we saw in that story also. Um, where the teacher gave 14 knowledges, and in return he asked for 14 crore swarna mudras. So these are the 14 kinds of knowledge, the four Vedas, Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Sam Ved, Atharva Ved, and then the six Vedangas, Shiksha, Kalpa, Chanda, Nirukta, Vyakaran, Jyotisha, then the Upangas, Puran, Nyaya, Mimamsa, Dharma Shastra, and then, of course, we have Upaveda, which is of lesser importance, but of course, it is not important. Upaveda, Ayurveda, Dhanurved, Gandharva Ved, Sthapatya Ved. So all of these are different centers of the knowledge emanating from the same core of the Vedic system. And through that, this knowledge has permeated our everyday living. So whenever we go to a temple, why? Because that knowledge has been put into that process, right? We do the daily arti, that knowledge has been put into that. So through our daily living, our Shastra has uh, immersed us into this knowledge. So we are a Hindu whenever we follow this knowledge. When are we not a Hindu? When we do anything that is against this knowledge, right? That is why we have the concept of Nastika, where some other systems like Charvak or Jain, both, we don't accept some of their concepts, right? So we have improved on their concepts so that they also can be equally accepted. So in this way, all the different Vedic systems, they prepare us. So through the prepared mind or the Shuddha Antakaranam, we have to know this. Then what? This is the first answer. The second answer is what? Second answer is that this Antakaranam has got two roles. It has got two roles in gaining knowledge. So listen carefully. Bit subtle. So what is that? First is the mind is the center, the locus we call it. The locus जहाँ ज्ञान उत्पन्न होता है. It is the locus of knowledge, a place where the knowledge takes place in the form of a mental thought modification. We call it vritti jnanam, right? Vritti jnanam. The thought describes an object and it creates an image of an object in our mind, right? So that is the vritti jnanam. So here, the appearance of this knowledge is happening where? In the mind, right? And through what is that knowledge is appearing? It is through the input that we get from the sense organs, right? From the chakshu indriya, shrotra indriya, and all. No? So for gaining knowledge, we use the different instruments. So like eye is the instrument of knowledge for knowing what? Color and form. Ear is for knowing the knowledge of sound. Nose is the instrument for smell. So we have different instruments and they will all capture some information about the sense objects and it will bring us to the mind. So mind is the locus of this knowledge. Instrument are different sense organs, right? Then again, sometimes we are not using a object. We are using our mind to logically analyze something, right? We are using a mind to logically analyze something. So now what is happening is, here now mind is taking the double role. Sita and Gita, both. So mind is also the instrument and mind is also the locus of the knowledge. So here what is happening is, the mind is conversing in a way with itself. It takes on two different roles, mana and buddhi, right? Sometimes you talk to yourself in your mind. ये मुझे ये करना है, नहीं ये मत करो, गलत है. I want to do this, and then something inside me will say, that you don't have to know. This is a better option. So out of the different options, the buddhi will select one of these, right? So here the mind is serving as both, as the instrument also and as the locus also of the knowledge. So there both of these are happening together. Also, when of course for a sadhak, when his mind becomes more refined, then that buddhi becomes connected to the total buddhi, samashti buddhi, and then you are connected to, in a way, to the Lord, to Ishvara, and he is talking to you there. So that also happens. It depends on what purity you have read, right? So when you are taking any kind of logical understanding, then both these functions are taken up. So when you are using the logic, mind is serving in two ways. One is, it is the instrument because you are reasoning, the reasoning instrument. And the locus of knowledge is the mind only, because at the end of reasoning, where is the conclusion taking place? It is in the mind itself, right? That is the center, the locus. So when it comes to Atma Jnanam, what is happening? There is a slight difference. What is the slight difference? We have to ask here, what is the instrument and what is the locus? What is the instrument and what is the locus? Does anyone remember about the different pramanas? Hmm. We have different pramanas. So pratyaksha, anuman. So they are also instruments. Pratyaksh is direct observation. Anuman is inference, right? And then you have upamana, through comparison, you know something, right? And so what is the most important one accepted there? Shabda Pramanam. So that Shabda Pramanam is Veda. So therefore, through our normal instruments, Atma Jnanam cannot be obtained. So there, what is the Atma Jnanam going to come to us through? Through the Vedanta Shravanam or Guru Updesha. So you have to do Shastra Adhyanam, or you have to study the Shastra. So Shastra will then become Pramanam. It will become the instrument for knowledge, right? So therefore, the sense organs cannot be the instrument of knowledge of this kind. Even the reasoning intellect also cannot be the instrument of knowledge, right? So we also saw here also, no, earlier, na esha tarkena matirapneyaha. So logic will also not help in getting this Atmajnanam. So therefore, Upanishad is negating the reasoning intellect as an instrument of knowledge. You cannot use the intellect. So the instrument is neither the sense organs nor the reasoning intellect, but Guru Upadesha Shravanam. So we call it Shabda Pramanam. So therefore, now this mind is negated. It is negated as an instrument. But now, even though the the reasoning intellect cannot serve you through this Guru Updesha, when the knowledge has to take place, you require the locus. Center to chahiye, na? Instrument hai. Instrument is the Shastra. You require the locus. So this locus is this purified mind. Shastra says you require the mind not as an instrument here, but as the locus of knowledge. Therefore, mind is required as the locus of knowledge. It is not required as the reasoning instrument. So this will clarify to you a lot of the confusions that we have, that why this knowledge cannot be obtained through reasoning. है ना, ये कैसे तर्क से नहीं आ सकती ये बुद्धि. This cannot be obtained through logical reasoning. Right? So that is why it is said, because this knowledge is Shastra Pramanam. And what is Shastra Pramanam actually? It will reveal to you as your own nature, as consciousness. That is something that cannot be said in words. It cannot be said in words. That is why it is said that this knowledge is beyond the reach of the words. वाणी भी वहां नहीं पहुंच सकती, मन भी नहीं पहुंच सकता. सो यतो वाचा निवर्तन्ते अप्राप्यम मनसा सह. So the vani, or the sound, or the speech, it also comes back without grasping that knowledge. And same thing with the mind also, right? So therefore, Shastra Jnanam only can help us have this knowledge. So therefore, Manasa Ev means with the help of the mind alone, you have to gain the knowledge, because the mind here is the locus of knowledge. So for this Atma Jnanam, it has to be the only way. And when this perspective change will happen, no, when this will happen within us, we have traveled from mortality to immortality, from samsaraha to mokshaha, right? So this is how we understand. So we have covered this verse. So more we'll see in the next class. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। ॐ तत्सत्।